a little bit surprised, although my son had been forewarned and had his phone ready for me to watch it so that I knew something was coming. But I was delighted. My great-grandfather, who was his chaplain all during the war, it's interesting to me that as a chaplain, he was the first chaplain to organize the list of chaplains who were in the Army. And so there had never been any record kept, as far as I know, but I have seen that written, that he made the first compilation of the chaplains. And it's also interesting to me that I have a grandson who is a chaplain in the Army. Well, one family story is that when Jackson was wounded and he was shot in the shoulder, he was brought to Elmwood, which was the summer home near Fredericksburg of my great-grandparents. It was the home that Beverly Tucker Lacey, who was the Jackson's chaplain, the wounded Jackson was brought to that home because it was made into a hospital, and his arm was amputated there and buried in the family cemetery. So it is still there. And Elmwood was just a simple farmhouse, but it's now open. It's owned by the National Park Service, as is Chatham, the home in Fredericksburg that was the manor house, and that was where my family came from. I was raised in the First Presbyterian Church, but when I was married, after the Second War, my husband came back from service and did his graduate work at Tech, and we came back to Roanoke for his first job and wanted to find a church home. And we had more friends at Second Church. And although Fred had been raised Episcopalian, he said, since every other one in my family was a minister and the one in between was a missionary, he couldn't fight them, so he joined them. So that's why we came to Second Church, because we had, as I say, more friends there, and thought we'd make a start there. The ministry, the preaching, and the music has always been so wonderful at Second, and I have so enjoyed that. And I have found such fellowship. We did, as long as we were here in Roanoke, and then Fred's business took us out of town, so we were gone a long time, but then came back, and it was just like old home week, coming back to the congregation, and the fellowship has just always been warm and inclusive. One of my good memories is when those first few years when we were first at Second Church, if Fred was president of the Young People's Association. And so we had a lot of good times with that. And I remember some of those very pleasantly. And the times that I remember after we came back to Roanoke in our retirement, I always thought it was kind of funny that when we came back to the church, that we had to go through the membership classes. We had to go through those again. And so I can remember going through some of those, and felt like I've done this before. But I've had wonderful Bible classes at Second, which I've so enjoyed, and making friends in a small group like that has been a great deal. Went to a ninth circle when we first came back because I had the children. I mean, the two girls then. Our son was not born till later. So I belonged to a ninth circle, and we met in homes, and it was really very pleasant. And after coming back of retirement, I had no children in tow. They were all grown and on their own, of course. So that I went to a day circle, and I was a Bible leader for several years. Those were good associations. I just felt it got bigger, but it was more organized. I felt it was well organized, but I just felt it was so much bigger that I could not get to know everybody. And particularly with two services, you recognize the people at the service you went to. We went to 11, but the morning people, you didn't recognize at all. But so that's the difficulty in a big church, but you want your church to grow. But as I say, I've felt all along that it was beautifully organized. He baptized both girls. I just remember liking him very much. I do remember some of his sermons, and they were very provocative and thought-provoking. It was the Lord's Prayer, from the Lord's Prayer, and the phrase he was preaching on was, "Thy kingdom come," and I think about it so often. He was preaching from the angle that, do we really want his kingdom to come, where we have to give up our pleasures and our comforts to make it equal to the other people on the planet? Do we really want to say, "Thy kingdom come and thy will be done"? Do we really want that? And I think about that so often because we're so spoiled by all of our comforts and our luxuries, where people on this earth are starving to death. So it's a lot to think about. I have felt like our outreach has increased, and certainly we have reached more people than we did earlier that I was aware of in my early years. It's more than doubled. I can say that my faith has grown stronger, but I have faced up to some really hard questions. And I have finally, mostly, come to the place where I just say, I don't understand, and this is a mystery. And like St. Paul said, I believe, but help me in my unbelief. Some of the things I struggle with, I have to just say, I don't understand, but we're not meant to understand everything. But I am totally committed to the fact that I'm in his hands and taken care of. And I was very poor at memorizing the Shorter Catechism. But the first question in the Catechism, what is man's chief end? Man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. So I have to leave it at that. Well, I am inspired by the lovely contacts I have from Second. I get the sermons every week. I get flowers and a visit every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's that inspires me. I hope it keeps growing. Goodness only knows our world needs people who believe and who have some morals. Our country and world is so amoral, and I just hope that the church will live and thrive and not get so big that it loses its warm touch. But also I pray all the time that it will shrivel and die in this climate of ignoring the church and God. Ultimately, it's not ours to worry, but it's hard not to. Well, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable, certainly as an observer, which I am now. You miss some of the things that you grew up with or experienced as a young adult. For instance, the church circles and the monthly women of the church luncheons that we had, and when you worked with everybody in your circle to put on the lunch, that camaraderie. But that was all part of my life when I was younger and able to do that. Now I'm not. So the fact that the church is changing, I am just an observer. So that, of course, I'm comfortable that I'm not part of it. I'm just observing, and I know that things have to change as the world changes around us. Well, certainly my faith, I have been challenged by difficulties. Obviously, having lived this long, I've lost everybody in my family. except two of my children are living. The only thing you can do is to say, just God help me get through. And that's what helps you if you just rely, you just say, help me. And you can't blame God for these things, which a lot of people do. And you go maybe through a little period of that, of saying, you could have gotten me out of this, but God doesn't come down and intervene in man's rhythms and man's routines and man's thinking, because God gave us the choices, and sometimes you make bad choices, and sometimes other people do, and those choices affect you. So all you can do to get through the tough places is to say, okay, God, help me. Just help me to give me strength to get through this. And that does it. One of my mother's favorite remarks would be, she would say, Agnes Reid, when you get to a tough spot, just grit your teeth and bear it like a lady. I gritted my teeth, but with God's help, I get through it.